Hey, I'm Paul Christie.
And I'm Jennifer Forrester.
And we're the pastors.
We are not the pastors.
Oh.
I actually am one of the pastors of Park Street United Methodist Church in Belmont, North Carolina.
And I'm Carson Putnam, and I'm one of the pastors at
First United Methodist Church in Hickory, North Carolina. So, you know, this is our like 28th season, right, in podcasting. How many? The fifth season.
Yeah, I was going to say. I
Okay,
think
the
it's 4 or
fifth
5.
season of podcasting. And
4 or 5.
so, for a lot of those seasons, Jennifer, you were one of the pastors here at First United Methodist Church. But, you know, being United Methodist, guess what happens?
We agreed to itinerate.
That's right. Tell us what the word itinerate means.
Well, I would define it as we move around. We never stay in one place, and we are sent.
That's exactly right. So we're under appointment each and every year by a bishop and a cabinet, correct?
That's correct.
So Jennifer, you were at First United Methodist Church in Hickory for 8 years, is that correct?
That's correct.
And this year you moved to Belmont. Beautiful Belmont.
It is beautiful. Belmont,
Beautiful
North
Belmont,
Carolina
North
is
Carolina.
beautiful. It is very hometown feeling, very friendly. I have met so many people even outside of the church. Coaches, they're very oriented to the school and sports. Part of our welcome gift were the high school sports teams t-shirts and hats, and everybody's been really wonderful and welcoming, but it feels very small, and then the minute you get outside of Belmont, you're
It's
like
huge, isn't it?
in Charlotte, 85, and you've got the airport, and you have all of the things. But yes, it's a beautiful place to be.
And so when you moved as part of the appointment system, Carson moved here to First United Methodist Church to be one of our pastors. And Carson, you know, we had a funeral today down in Falston, North Carolina.
That's right.
And we're just riding around, and Carson says, "You know what? This is where I moved from."
That's
So
right.
tell me about where you came from, Falston.
Yeah, so Lainey and I, my wife and I, are both from Shelby, but the church that I served previously was in Lawndale, right outside Falston. They're neighboring towns, and it's in Upper Cleveland County, beautiful Upper Cleveland, and sweet church, and just a really great community that's so tight knit. They really
Right.
support one another, and supported me for sure the whole time I was there, and they were just great to us.
Well, that's good. Well, you know, I'm getting to be the mediator today, and I just want to
I think
ask
that
y'all
next
some
time
questions.
Carson and I are going to work that out differently.
Yeah.
No,
So
no.
next time you get to ask the questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We'll each
So,
come up with 3 or
no.
4.
sounds
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
So, I want to know something, and in all seriousness, I think people want to know. I know it's tough to move from a place where you've been, right,
Absolutely.
for a while, and so you've got some sadness there, but then you've got some excitement and joy because something new's coming. So I want y'all to tell me how your first Sunday preaching at your new appointment was, because for both of y'all, that was this past Sunday, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So Carson, tell me, how was it preaching in a place you'd never been before, preaching to people that you did not know, and you're thinking, "Oh my goodness!" and now I've got to preach. Tell me kind of what went through your mind standing up there preaching.
Well, my first act, I announced the wrong time and date for a meeting during announcements.
I think that was great.
That's a
though,
great way to
Carson.
start.
It's a great way to start.
You just
know,
break the
start at
ice.
the bottom.
Yeah.
Can only go up.
Go ahead and get it out of the
That's
way.
right.
Out of the chute.
No, it was great, and you know, obviously we're new to the community, but preaching and being in the Word together and worshiping together is such a beautiful way, I feel like, to get to know folks for the first time,
Right.
especially on a Sunday when we're observing communion,
Right.
and you know, gathering around that table and that meal of grace together. And so, you know, a lot of folks to meet and a lot of hands to shake, but we felt so welcomed. And kind of overwhelmed with that and the hospitality, but yeah, I think it's a beautiful way to come together for the first time.
Okay. And so Jennifer, you're in Belmont, And you got to preach this past Sunday for the first time
I did.
to your new community of faith as one of their pastors. So tell me how that was. Tell me how you felt.
I mean, similar to what Carson just said, it's, I think the hard part about it, and I read this quote recently, but it's like you try to compare your beginning to somebody else's ending. And I think that's hard to step back from that, so you're not doing that. I'm following a very beloved pastor. David Hyatt was there for 12 years. He's an amazing pastor, and he's at Denver United Methodist, so he could have been part of this podcast with us today. But I think we all go into these new appointments on the first Sunday, and I would imagine, I don't want to speak for him, but I would imagine he felt similar to the way that both Carson and I felt. I mean, you feel so much love, but you also, I guess, have that nervousness or that little bit of anxiety that you want to measure up to whatever the unknown expectations are that a congregation has of you that you can't yet foresee. Because I will never be David Hyatt, Carson will never be me, and whoever's following Carson at his previous church will never be him. And so we have different gifts. I think that's part of the beauty of it, is that we do bring different gifts, and hopefully we continue to build and grow off of who was there and who preceded us. And everybody's so welcoming, shaking hands. I agree. I love having communion on that first Sunday because we are reminded that we come together and we are one. And we can go from there. We can figure it out together from that place. So yeah, I think it was a great day of worship, and we felt so much love, the Forrester family did, at Park Street. And I'm glad the first Sunday's over, I guess. I would say, not in a bad way, but just that, I think next Sunday I'll know more what to expect and how to feel.
So from a preaching perspective, and do y'all find it easier to preach to people that you do not know or people that you know? And that there may not be this is easy, but talk about that, because here you're coming and you're preaching to people, one, that you don't know, but they're going to be part of your family. Yeah. So talk about that tension there.
I mean, I think for me, there are moments when I really enjoy preaching to people that I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like there's less.
Why is that?
Well, there's less pressure there.
Okay.
But I feel like preaching on your first Sunday at a church, there's more pressure. Although you don't know them, you know that you are part of them now, and you want it to be enough. You want to be enough. You want to meet their expectations, like I said before. So I think in that situation, I would much rather preach to a congregation that I know than preach for the first time to a congregation that I'm going to get to be part of.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I feel like it's easy for on a first Sunday somewhere preaching that you're appointed to. It's your first Sunday there, but you know that you're appointed to be part of this community. That it's not like you're a guest speaker. You come in this Sunday and you're gone the next. That you're going to be walking through life with these people, and they're going to be part of your life. I feel like it's easy in that circumstance for those expectations to kind of hang heavy over you. And so I feel like it really depends, on the situation. Sometimes it's easy, I feel like, to preach to folks you don't know, who, you'll probably never see again. But sometimes I find it easier to preach to folks I do know. Like, when you've been part of a community and let's say you have a loss or a tragedy in a community, to know those folks and to have walked through life together and journeyed with them, I feel like it's almost easier because you've walked through this with them.
Right. Okay.
Well, and there's grace in relationship, and so when you stand up and you're preaching to a community of people that you know and have a relationship with, there's a lot of grace there.
Okay.
So, maybe it's like your worst sermon ever, or, our kids aren't little anymore, but Carson's are, and like the kids were up all night or something, and you're tired, and there's just a lot of grace in how you show up.
Okay.
That's different than your first Sunday.
Yeah.
And I want to ask just a couple of more questions because, I'm the old guy here. Okay, I've moved several times in my life, and each time, absolutely it was hard to move. It just is, because people let you be part of their family and their story, and it's tough to make and break those ties.
Yeah.
But for the thousands of people that will be listening to our podcast, and particularly United Methodist, or preachers that are moving, list your top 3 things that you think are important when you move into a new community of faith. Your top 3.
All right, so why don't you answer your own question first? What are your top 3 things?
My top 3 things, if I'm moving into a new community, are the same things. All right? I want a list of every shut-in in that church, and I'm going to go visit. I'm going to get a list of everybody who's in the hospital, or everybody who's had a death within the last month, and I'm going to visit them. And 3, I'm going to write a lot of thank you notes. Those are my top 3 things that I would do moving into a new community. Because my dad, who was a United Methodist pastor, used to say, we make ministry so complicated. We think it's all about our preaching. And my dad said, I hate to disappoint everybody, they ain't going to remember anything you preach, but they will remember you if you were with them and if you write thank you notes.
Yeah, that's true.
Something I was gonna list. I was trying to think of the other 2. I was gonna list presence as like
Absolutely.
the first,
Okay.
the top.
Okay.
And it kind of goes back to what Jennifer was talking about with, relationship, and like them knowing you in your preaching relationship with the congregation.
Absolutely.
That presence is so important. We're called to sit with folks and sit with each other, not just as clergy or laity or whatnot, but as Christians, as followers of Christ. I think presence. I think humility. In we're appointed here and we're coming in, but we have a lot to learn.
Absolutely.
We may have our own gifts and whatnot, or think we have our own gifts, but to always be open to learning, not only from congregations and people we don't know, and from communities, but from mentors too, who might be placed along our way in this new place.
Sure.
So like presence and humility, and just getting, I don't really know how to put this, an appetite for knowing the community.
Good point. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would build off that, and I think probably saying the same thing just in a different way. I would say relationships, and so the shut-ins, yes, but even more than that, right? Like,
Sure.
I want to get to know as many people as I can.
Absolutely.
I love hearing people's stories. I want to know where they're from, where they've been, how they got to where they are, because I think that's how we see God work best and shine through people's lives, is through their stories. And so I would say relationships and humility, for sure. I would list humility, I think, to come in with a posture of learning and listening. And then the third thing that I would say is curiosity. Asking a lot of questions, and when somebody says something to you, asking another question, like question after question, to try to get to the root of what it is they really want you to know. Because what I've learned throughout my life is when we transition into new areas or new parts of our lives, it makes us feel incredibly vulnerable. And that's also true for the congregation, right? It
Sure.
makes them feel vulnerable. Like, what if the new person coming in doesn't love me? like this last person loved me. And I think through curiosity, we show that we genuinely want to know, and we can really get to the bottom. You can take away those layers of protection that everybody has, and ourselves included, right? I mean, the truth is we all just want to be known and loved for who we are. And so
Want to be loved. That's right.
as people want to get to know us, Carson and I, and everybody else that is in a new appointment, for us to be willing enough to be vulnerable enough at the right time when people are asking questions. But curiosity, so relationship, humility, and curiosity, and those are maybe more general, and yours are maybe more specific, but
No, and I think I definitely think that's valid. A lot of times we think we've got it all figured out, and we know the right way to do things. But I think just sitting back, relaxing, listening, and watching, we learn so much. Well, guys, I want to thank y'all because I know that it's not easy moving. Okay, I know that, but I want to thank you, and I look forward now. Jennifer, our podcast is going to grow. We've got Carson.
Absolutely, we have a whole new set of 1,000 listeners.
That's right.
People will want to hear Carson.
That's exactly right. So I hope y'all will stay tuned for season 5.
Yeah, and I would love to invite Laura Alberry to be part of our conversation. She's the other pastor of Park Street United Methodist Church, and so we'll have her with us.
But for now, I'm Paul Christie.
And I'm Jennifer Forrester.
And I'm Carson Putnam.
And we are United Methodist pastors.